Welcome back everyone. Today I'm just going to cover probably my last Dark Knight video unless I start playing Dark Knight a little bit more into Savage. I'm just going to cover these skills, or at least clear up some confusion maybe that some of you may have with how the skills work and how to use some of them. I'm going to try to go through them as fast as possible because it's not really a basic guide. First off, we're going to cover Hard Slash, Spinning Slash, and your Power Slash. Those are your Butcher's Block equivalent or Rage of Helon equivalent. It boosts your enmity. So you only need to use this when you need to build up threat. If you use Dark Hearts, it will give you the Power Slash even more enmity. I'm not sure if that's really worth using, but it is possible. Your second combo will be your Hard Slash, Siphon Strike, and Soul Eater. Soul Eater is a really powerful attack when comboed with Dark Arts. It's basically an inner beast without the 20% damage mitigation for 6 seconds. This is pretty powerful for self-healing, especially if you're wearing strength gear. Your next combo also follows Siphon Strike, and it's Delirium. Delirium is basically Dragon Kick. If you don't have a monk in the group, then you're probably going to be doing this skill. Alright, so back to Delirium. I had to check with the monk to get a better idea. I don't play monk very often. So Delirium is actually your strongest potency combo. It's stronger than your Power Slash. Now if you have a monk in your group, you may as well be keeping up Delirium. It'll give you 1 turn of saving MP as you won't be using Dark Arts. And it doesn't stack with Dragon Kick, but it will prevent your monk from having to use Dragon Kick, which I think is actually a DPS increase overall, because Dragon Kick is only a 150 potency attack. And if he does, if I understand correctly, Boot Shine, it's an automatic crit, which is still 150 potency, but just because it crits automatically, right there would be a DPS increase for your monk. Scourge. Scourge is a 500 potency attack. It's very, very powerful. It's basically your Fracture, but it's super strong. The main difference why this is actually really strong, why it would have such a high potency, is because you don't have an ability that increases your damage. You don't have a Berserk or Fight for Flight as a Dark Knight. And the only skill you have is Blood Weapon. It increases your physical attack by 10%. Now it also helps you regen mana, but you can't use it in Grit. If you have Grit on, this skill is grayed out. So it's up to you to know when to get out of Grit to be able to get that mana from Blood Weapon. As far as I know, Blood Weapon is the only skill not usable while in Grit. Plunges your ability to be, it's like shoulder tackle. You basically jump to the target and stay there. It's very useful when you're trying to get around to a new ad and you don't necessarily want to use Unmend, which TP is not really that big of an issue when you're trying to use like your Tomahawk equivalent. And it's actually a nice 200 potency attack, which is off global. The animation is a bit long, so I wouldn't pair it with any other abilities at the same time. Low Blow. Low Blow has 100 potency. It's nice. It's your stun, and it also has a chance to refresh when you parry, which makes it kind of nice because it will give you more DPS if you don't need to stun anything. Reprisal, also based off when you parry, and it's the equivalent to Storm's Path. Reprisal also becomes active when you parry, although it has a 30-second recast timer, and it does the same effect as Storm's Path, but it also stacks with Storm's Path, which is nice. Blood Price regenerates mana every time you get hit, so if you're doing a large AoE pull on a speedrun, let's say, this skill will keep you topped up. All you have to do is use your Unleash, which is your flash that does damage. Abyssal Drain is an option to use. I'd compare it to Flash, but at range. You don't have to be near the targets. It'll do an AoE attack that boosts your enmity. It's a 5-yard radius, which is the same as Unleash. So Unleash is the equivalent to Flash on a Dark Knight. It uses MP as opposed to TP, and it does damage instead of just doing enmity. The range is nice. It can hit all 5 of these targets. And then the alternative would be using Abyssal Drain, which is 120 potency instead of 100, and if paired with Dark Arts, it will actually heal you. For Dark Arts, you need to be in Dark Side. So if you do Abyssal Drain, if you use Dark Arts, it will actually heal you. One thing to note, I forgot to mention, with Blood Weapon, it only gives you mana if you do physical attacks. Your spells will not give you mana. Carve and Spit. Basically, if you don't have Dark Arts active, it will give you 1 tick of mana, the same as Siphon Strike. If you have Dark Arts activated, it will do 450 potency hit. Now, what I think is a good time to use a skill with Dark Arts is when you're not in Grit, when you're off tanking, and you're able to use Blood Weapon more efficiently, so that you have the MP to spare to use Dark Arts for a Carve and Spit. Dark Arts is basically the skill you're going to be using a lot just to burn through your mana to increase either your tanking effectiveness or your DPS effectiveness. It's on a 5-second recast, but it is instant cast. So it's actually really easy to use. You just use it on an off global, do an attack, and then use the skill you meant to use on it next time. Because that way you won't delay using 2 skills in one rotation. So I'll show what I mean by this. One thing that you can do, you use Dark Side, and I meant to use it on Soul Eater, so I use it then, use it again, and then use it on Dark Passenger, and then I can still use it again for another hit of Soul Eater. Now this is very mana intensive. Be able to use 3 Dark Arts into 2 Soul Eaters and 1 Dark Passenger, but it does do a lot of damage. The reason why you would use it on Dark Passenger is for the increased damage and the effect of blind. So if you're doing a speed run and you have a lot of ads on you that are able to be blinded, you can use this and it'll actually count as a defensive cooldown on top of more DPS. Salted Earth is basically just a puddle AoE. It's actually quite high damage. Potency is... Salted Earth is 525 potency attack. So it's very nice as long as they stay within the... As long as the ads stay within the AoE, Salted Earth is actually quite a strong AoE puddle. That should cover most of your offensive abilities. Now we're going to cover more of the defensive. So Grit is basically your shield oath. It does the exact same thing. Dark Side is your DPS stance, but what is different with the Dark Knight is that you can use both at the same time. And the only skill you can't use in Grit is Blood Weapon, and a lot of the skills you need to be in Dark Side to be able to use. If I take Dark Side off, I can't use Dark Dance, Dark Passenger, Dark Mind, or Dark Arts. I think that should be the only ones. Now if I put Dark Side back up, basically it drains your MP while increasing damage dealt by 15%. It won't negate the full Grit damage change, but it's pretty close. And because of this, you're going to be the highest DPS tank while main tanking. It basically makes it that you're barely losing DPS while main tanking. So Dark Arts is really powerful. It costs a lot of MP, almost 2,000. If you don't need to use Power Slash, then you're basically be doing Siphon Strikes, which every third hit is going to give you about 900 mana. So you won't be able to use Dark Arts every single rotation. So what I would suggest doing is you do your Soul Eater rotation with a Dark Art. The next rotation should be Delirium, so that if you don't have a monk or your monk is not around, because Delirium is also your strongest potency combo. And then it gives yourself a break, and then in the next rotation you can do a Soul Eater combo again. Now unless you need to or a Dark Heart / Soul Eater combo. So every second rotation you can do a Dark Heart's Soul Eater rotation. Now, as far as cooldowns go, Shadow Wall is basically the equivalent to Vengeance without the counterattack. It's 30%, and it's also 3 minutes as opposed to 2. Soul Survivor is your quote-unquote mercy stroke, except you put a buff on the target. Instead of dealing damage, as long as the ad dies within the 15-second timer, then you will regain 20% mana and 20% health. So this is really useful, except it's on a 2-minute cooldown, so it's not going to be as useful as Mercy Stroke on a warrior. But I still loaded Mercy Stroke just to be able to try and get both in sometimes. Shadow Skin is basically Rampart. Unmend is the equivalent to your Tomahawk. It gives you an increased enmity. The nice thing is it uses mana, so it helps you out with TP. You can, I'm not saying spam this, but you can use this effectively. Unlike the Paladin, where if you use your Shield Lob, then that's a lot of TP and it's a big waste in the long run. Unmend also has a 30% chance that the next Unleash will cost no mana, which is nice, but to me, unless this happens, let's say in A2 while you're picking up an ad, then okay, you know, you get a free Unleash to use for some AoE damage. But if it happens on a boss on the pole, I don't know if this is really a good thing to do, because you're not really doing that much damage. It's only 100 potency for Unleash, and it's still a global cooldown. So you'd be doing 2 small hits when you could just start doing your rotation. Living Dead is the equivalent to Holmgang or Hollow Ground. Now, it's kind of an in-between skill. I like it more than Holmgang, but I don't like it as much as Hollow Ground. Hollow Ground, you take no damage for 10 seconds, which is basically amazing. It's a cooldown you can use whenever, except it's on a long timer. Holmgang is a shorter timer. I think it's 180 seconds as opposed to 300. So this is a 5-minute cooldown. Holmgang is a 3-minute cooldown. And Hollow Ground is like an 8-minute, I think. It's ridiculous. 540. This lasts 3 seconds longer than Holmgang. And if you just go down to 1 HP, yeah, okay, zombie. So you have 2 phases to this. If you think you're about to die, you can use Living Dead, and for 10 seconds you won't be able to die. So if you go to 1 HP, you now become the Walking Dead. Now your healers have 10 seconds to heal you back up. So this could kind of be a really tight timing, but basically you could use this and it's a lot longer than 10 seconds. Let's say you use Living Dead and it doesn't proc until 5 seconds in. Then you have 10 seconds where you are immune still until you reach full HP. Once you reach full HP, then the debuff wears off. If you don't reach full HP before the 10-second ends, then you die. It's simple as that. You don't live. Now they fixed it where Benediction did not work for this, so that is a great plus, because before you'd go to 1 HP Benediction and you still needed a tick of health. If you're going to use Living Dead and it procs, I would highly recommend using Convalescence, just so that you can have a better chance at living. If you don't have a healer that's ready to top you up right away, then you might end up just dying anyway. Now I think the last buff I have to talk about is Dark Mind. If I missed anything, I'm sorry. I'm not going to cover cross-class skills. I already covered a video on that. The Dark Mind is actually only for magical damage, so you're going to have to learn the fights and know when to use this skill, because in A1 Savage, Plasma is magical. I'm not sure what else is magical damage right now off the top of my head. But the nice thing is, because Shadow Skin is on a 90-second timer, and this is on a 1-minute timer, which is really nice, for every single Plasma, you could have Dark Mind and Shadow Skin. And the other nice thing is, you feel like you need to mitigate more damage, you definitely should be using Dark Arts with it, because your primary goal is to mitigate as much damage as possible. So instead of mitigating 15%, you're now mitigating 30%, which is a pretty big increase. 30% can make a huge difference in your survivability. Now, one I just realized I kind of skipped over, it was Dark Dance. Dark Dance can also be boosted by Dark Arts, but the thing I don't really know is, I know that evasion was really useful in raids. This by itself without Dark Arts is great because it boosts your parry rate, and your parry rate will also affect your low blow and reprisal from proccing. Now the 20% evasion, I'm not sure if it's going to work in raids, but in dungeons definitely. If you pop a Dark Arts with a Dark Dance, it'll definitely allow you to take more hits in, or actually avoid more hits from all the ads. So just a quick recap on what Dark Arts can do. It will unlock a certain potential for skills. It unlocks Dark Passenger, Dark Mind, Abyssal Drain, Carven Spit will do more damage, Soul Eater will become a much stronger ability, and Dark Dance will allow you to dodge. The other one, which I probably would never use, is Dark Arts on a Power Slash. This would probably be the only time I can think of. If you just use Provoke and you didn't time it properly, whereas the main tank used a Butcher's Block combo, he's a full strength warrior, and you did a really bad job, then I would use a Dark Arts and then finish off your combo, and hopefully that you may be able to catch up to that Butcher's Block. Again, hopefully this has cleared up some information about the Dark Knight. I try to keep it short, but when you're trying to cover skills of an entire class, it takes a while, especially since this is a new class, so you have to kind of go over all the skills. I thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and come check us out on Twitch on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we generally raid. Again, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.